What inspires change? What motivates us? It's what's inside that moves us. What moves you? Get the Scion story at Scion.com.
Chief District Court Judge Francis Tydingco-Gatewood held an unusual press conference this afternoon, urging Congress to rethink its budget cut proposals. Judge Gatewood said the federal judiciary is in desperate need of additional funding, or it may not be able to carry out its constitutional responsibilities.
The main thing that we're asking the legislative leaders in Washington, D.C. is to avoid any more sequestration and funding cuts to the federal judiciary. Nationwide, as I've indicated, 87 of 94 federal judges have proceeded forward and written this letter.
The lawyer representative for Guam to the Ninth Circuit Court, Rodney, also spoke at the news conference, stressing the importance of avoiding further cuts. He notes that the affected agencies have already made the necessary cuts.
The courts have done its job. The courts have tightened its belt. The Federal Public Defender's Office has tightened its belt. Probation services have tightened its belt. This is not an issue of can we do more. It cannot undergo another cut.
The agency most affected is the Federal Public Defender's Office. Acting Federal Public Defender Leilani Lujan explains what her office has had to endure over the last fiscal year.
Resources for training, investigation, travel, witnesses like expert witnesses, and also interpreter services have been cut. And also significantly, furloughs, which are forced unpaid days off, have been implemented. Our office also endured furloughs. And another big impact of the sequester and budget cuts is that we have been forced to retire our only investigator.
Lujan also alluded to a sense of inequity that could be felt from Congress. While Congress is proposing to slash the budgets of federal defender agencies, on the other hand, the Senate Committee for Appropriations has approved hundreds of millions in increased funding for federal law enforcement agencies.
In particular, the U.S. attorneys have been approved for a $79 million increase. FBI has been approved for a $368 million increase. ATF, $100 million increase, and DEA, an increase of $68 million. Meanwhile, the federal defenders are being slashed to the bone.
The end result, adds Lujan, is that more criminal cases will be filed, while those who provide defense counseling services will be burdened with increased caseloads per attorney. And a perfect example of that could be found right here on Guam. The U.S. Attorney's Office has 11 attorneys, a stark contrast to the Federal Public Defender's Office, which only has 2.
We also have not made major office purchases. We have had no equipment upgrades, no pay raises. And for the early part of fiscal year 2013, or excuse me, for the early part of this year, our federal public defender, Mr. John Gorman, handled all the cases by himself for a period of 4 months.
Furthermore, Chief Deputy Clerk Chuck White says the cuts have put the judiciary back 9 years and 25% of its staff lost over the last 5 years.
To contextualize it in terms of the broader judiciary, this fiscal year 2013, we suffered a 14%, our allotment was 14% less than full requirements. And that put us back to the year 2004 in terms of budget.